Quinn McIntyre, and I'm reporting on erosion in the Boulder Flood. Erosion is where wind or water pushes away rocks, soil, or vegetation and deposits it elsewhere. The rainfall that caused the Boulder Flood started Monday, September 9th, 2013. By Wednesday, the ground was saturated and the flood started. Overall, there are 17.15 inches of rainfall in 8 days, making 2013 the wettest year on record in Boulder. Because of the flood, Obama declared Boulder a disaster area. Another reason the erosion and the flooding was so bad is Boulder is in mountainous terrain. And the steeper the slopes, the faster the water moves. And the faster the water moves, the more erosion there is. Here's an example of erosion in the Boulder Flood. As you can see, the water pushed away the soil under the road and the road collapsed. In this picture, there is an example of deposition. The water carried away mud and earth and deposited it on the road. Now I am going to interview a special guest who was affected by the flood. Brad Feld, who is someone who was affected by the Boulder Flood. Hi, I hear you were affected by the flood. Where do you live?
I live in El Dorado Canyon. So we have a house behind the state park in El Dorado Springs State Park. You drive all the way through the little town and then through the state park. And then our house is on the other side of it.
Cool. What did erosion do to your house?
The flood eroded the road through the state park. And so the road, which was big enough for 2 cars to pass on either side of each other, completely was impassable. You couldn't even really walk on the road anymore because the entire road was washed away. The other place was on our driveway up to our house. The water that came from the top of the property destroyed the driveway because what happened was the water came down as it wanted to go downhill, and it washed away all of the road and then all of the dirt underneath the driveway and just literally washed into the creek and eroded it away.
Yikes.
Yikes!
Where was the water coming from?
So South Boulder Creek goes through El Dorado Canyon and then goes through the lower part of our land. A small part of South Boulder Creek goes off in a tributary and goes underground, but then comes above ground, above where our house is. And there is something called a culvert, so it's like a 20-foot deep, like a little lake, a river, but never has any water in it. And every now and then, when there's a lot of snow or a lot of rain, it'll have a little water in it. What happened was the water was coming in so fast that it backed up and couldn't get through that culvert. And so it overflowed the culvert, and then it went down the natural contour of the land. And when it went down the natural contour of the land, it created this giant crevasse. So because in Colorado, the dirt is on top of granite, so the water started eroding soil out, hit the granite, but it was coming so fast that it just went sideways. And we ended up with, basically a Grand Canyon-like thing in the middle. If you're an ant, it's the Grand Canyon in the middle of our land.
How deep is the Grand Canyon thing in the middle?
The crevasse. It's about 15 feet deep. So we had a meadow that was about the size of a football field. That was, it wasn't flat because we're on a hill, but it was that size, and you could play football on it. And we now have a Grand Canyon that separates it into 2 parts, and it's 15 feet deep, and it's about 12 feet wide. And this got created, and it's probably about a half a mile long. So that got created just from the storms because of the power of water, and water not having anywhere to go. So it backed up, and it didn't have anywhere to go, so it just went straight downhill on the contour of the land.
Why did your house not get affected by it?
So the house, we were really lucky. So the house was up on a hill, and the culvert is lower than the house. So the water that got backed up the house was up here on the hill, and the water that got backed up was here. And so then when the water overflowed, it came down this way and just avoided the house.
What sort of debris do you have in your property after the flood?
So the water was pretty aggressive, and most of the debris got flooded away. So most of it was dirt and a little bit of trees and stuff like that, but even if you looked in this big crevasse, there's not much in it. And it was pretty active running water for a while. We had a gas pipe all the way through our driveway, so underneath our driveway that was then exposed. And in that driveway part, there was a bunch of stuff that got tangled up in the pipe. So you had a bunch of tree limbs and brush and stuff because there was something for all that stuff to get stuck under. But this crevasse that was on the other side, there was nothing in it, right? Because it was dirt down to granite, and all the dirt got washed away, so things that just kept coming through, it just kept coming through.
Was your driveway dirt or cement?
Dirt. So we didn't have any cement anywhere. So this was an interesting thing, because if we had some cement, probably the driveway still would have gotten messed up because of the water and the way the land is. But it would have been very different because it probably would have broken in places because it wouldn't have had the structural support below, like the dirt below would have eroded away, and then the road would have buckled. Here, it just got washed away.
Where do you think your driveway went?
I think our driveway went into South Boulder Creek.
Bye, and thank you for being here. These pictures show the damage to the road leading up to Brad Feld's house. Thank you for watching my report on erosion in the Boulder Flood. Quinn McIntyre signing off.
All my cookies went away.